So here we're going to look at the idea of balancing complementary opposites. So we are familiar from Vedanta with the notion of the pairs of opposites. If you know that someone is tall, you know them as not short also. The opposites co-define each other. Psychological phenomena are the same. And when one tendency or one pole predominates in the personality, we lose balance. When we recognize that we've lost balance, we can use self-analysis to find out what we need to address and how to do so. So this 4-quadrant model has been developed by Beena Sharma from the Vertical Development Academy. And using it is very simple. We start by asking the question, what is a strength or trait or value that defines me and has led me to who I am today? And let's call this X. So it could be anything. And there's a few examples here. Being service-oriented, being analytical, being a team player. So take a couple of moments to answer this question. These are the questions that we're going to ask to work our way through the quadrants. What are the benefits and positives of X? What happens when I do too much of X? If there is too much X, what do I need to do? And we'll call this balancing polarity Y. Now, what happens when I do too much of Y? And if I do too much of Y, what do I need to do? Return back to balance with X. So let's go through a couple of examples. Take the strength, trait or value that you have come up with from your own personality and work in parallel with the examples that we have here. What is a strength, trait or value that defines me and has led me to who I am today? 2 examples in answering this question. One is being service-oriented and the other is being analytical. I'll explain only service orientation, but the same process can be applied to being analytical also. The first thing we ask is, what are the benefits of this? When it comes to service, benefits include promoting others' well-being and growth, and also promoting my own psychological and spiritual health. But this can get out of balance. What happens when I do too much? I take on too much and get burnt out. I'm conflicted in my own needs and I don't meet them, and I may stifle others' growth. Rather than allowing them to do things for themselves, I do it for them. When I do too much service, what do I need to do? This indicates the complementary polarity, which we've called Y. If I do too much service, I need to be more connected to assessment. Assessment of the true benefit to others, of my own intentions, my own attachments, and my needs. So assessment balances out service. Now what's interesting here is that you could argue that assessment is not the opposite of service. That in fact assessment is an integral part of service. What we have to recognize is that this is your own reflection process. From a certain perspective, service and assessment are seen to be balancing complementary polarities. It's this perspective that we are taking. We're not saying it's absolute. We are saying that it is a useful lens to look at our own personality and the way that we're functioning. So it's your self-reflection. You determine what is a complementary opposite. So then assessment becomes the balancing polarity to service. And of course, that can also get out of balance. So we ask the question, What happens when I do too much why? What happens when I do too much assessment? Then I get into overthinking. There's no decision making and no action. Analysis paralysis. When that happens, what do I need to do? Return back to X, return back to service. Forget about all those questions, trying to figure out everything down to the minute detail. You feel like you want to give, just serve. And so you see overlaid here the infinity symbol. We continue to move around these quadrants, balancing out. So we would do this kind of analysis when we have time and space to spend on it. Check everything. Ensure that it makes sense to you. Ensure that it feels right. Tweak things as you go through. Keep changing all of the quadrants until it seems to be a coherent picture of complementary opposites within your personality. Once you are familiar with this process, then you can use it in real time. In these moments of uncertainty or stress, return back to the quadrant model. And you can start anywhere. So you can balance out the complementary opposites in real time using this kind of self-reflection pathway.